I was standing outside my daughter's restaurant in downtown Chicago, holding a wooden recipe box that belonged to her grandmother, praying she'd look at me the way she used to, before the money changed everything. A woman next to me on the sidewalk dropped her grocery bags. I bent down and helped her pick up every last orange. I had no idea that woman would be sitting across from my daughter 30 minutes later, and when their eyes met, my daughter's hands started shaking so hard she knocked over a glass of wine. Tell me where you're watching from, then answer this. Do you believe God puts the right people in your path at exactly the right moment? Drop your city, and I believe if you do, what I'm about to tell you will make you certain. My name is Walter Price. I'm 67 years old, and this is what happened to me. It was a Tuesday morning in late November, the kind of cold that sneaks through your coat and sits in your bones. I took the L train from my neighborhood on the south side all the way to the Gold Coast, where my daughter Christine owned a restaurant called Fontaine. One of the hottest spots in Chicago. Reservations booked 3 months out. Food critics falling over themselves to praise it. My daughter's name in magazines, on television, everywhere. I was proud of her. Lord knows I was proud. But pride and pain can live in the same heart, and mine was full of both. I carried a small wooden box under my arm. Inside were handwritten recipe cards, dozens of them, written by my late wife, Ruth. Her fried chicken recipe, her sweet potato pie, her collard greens with smoked turkey necks. The recipes Christine had grown up eating. The recipes that made her fall in love with cooking in the first place. Christine's birthday was Thursday. I wanted to give her the box in person. Maybe sit down together. Maybe she'd smile the way she used to when she was 12, standing on a step stool next to her mama, learning to fold biscuit dough. I got off the train at Chicago Avenue and started walking east toward Michigan Avenue. The wind off Lake Michigan cut through everything. 2 blocks from the restaurant, I passed a small grocery store. A woman was coming out, mid-70s, short silver hair, reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. She wore a plain brown coat that had seen better days, and she was carrying 4 paper bags stacked too high. The top bag tipped. Oranges rolled across the sidewalk. A jar of honey hit the concrete and cracked. She gasped and tried to bend down, but her knees were bad. You could see it in the way she moved. Nobody stopped. People walked right past her, stepping over the oranges like they were trash. I set the recipe box down on a bench and went to her. "Let me help you, ma'am." She looked up at me, surprised. "Oh, you don't have to." "I want to." I knelt down, gathered the oranges, stacked them back in the bag. The honey jar was cracked, but hadn't shattered. I wrapped it in a plastic bag from inside one of the others, so it wouldn't leak. "There you go, all fixed." She studied my face for a long moment, not the way strangers usually look at you, quick and forgettable. She looked at me the way someone does when they're memorizing you. "Thank you," she said quietly. "That was very kind." My wife always said the measure of a person is what they do when nobody important is watching. I smiled. She was smarter than me about most things. The woman laughed softly. "She sounds like a wonderful woman." She was. Passed 3 years ago. I'm sorry. Me too. Every day. I picked up my recipe box from the bench. "You have a good morning, ma'am." "Wait." She adjusted her bags. "Where are you headed?" "Restaurant called Fontaine. Just up the block." Something shifted in her expression. Just for a second, like a flicker behind her eyes. "Fontaine. That's the place everyone's talking about. That's the one. My daughter owns it. Is that right?" She tilted her head slightly. "Would you mind if I walked with you? I'm going that direction myself. I'd be happy for the company." We walked together. She told me her name was Dorothy. I told her mine. She asked about the box under my arm, and I told her about the recipe cards, about Ruth, about Christine. I told her more than I should have to a stranger, but Dorothy had a way of listening that made you feel like your words mattered. "You must be very proud of your daughter," she said. "Proud doesn't cover it. She went from cooking in our little kitchen in Englewood to running one of the best restaurants in Chicago. And she did it on her own?" I paused. "Well, that's the thing. She didn't. Not exactly." Dorothy waited. "But that's a long story." "I've got time," she said, and something about the way she said it made me believe her. So I told her. I told her everything. When Christine was 8 years old, her mother and I noticed she had a gift. She could taste a dish once and tell you what was in it. She'd rearrange spices in the cabinet by flavor profile when she was 10. By 12, she was cooking full dinners while Ruth and I just watched, amazed. Ruth was a home cook, never went to school for it, learned from her mother, who learned from hers. Generations of women who could make magic out of nothing. Ruth wrote every recipe down on index cards in her beautiful handwriting. She kept them in that wooden box. When Christine was 16, she told us she wanted to go to culinary school. The best one, Le Cordon Bleu in Chicago. The tuition was $42,000. I was a maintenance worker at a public school on the South Side. Ruth worked part-time at a dry cleaner. Together we made maybe $55,000 a year. We had nothing saved. But Ruth looked at me that night after Christine went to bed, and she said, "Walter, we're going to find a way." And we did. I took a second job, nights at a warehouse on the west side, loading trucks from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., then going straight to the school by 7. Ruth started doing alterations from home in the evenings, hemming pants and fixing zippers until her fingers were raw. 3 years. I slept maybe 4 hours a night for 3 years. My back gave out twice. I developed arthritis in both hands from the warehouse work. But we paid that tuition. Every single semester. $42,000. And not 1 cent of it borrowed. Christine graduated top of her class. She worked her way up through restaurants in Chicago. Sous chef, then head chef, then executive chef. By 30, she was being written about in food magazines. By 33, investors came calling. That's when things started to change. The investors offered her a partnership. They'd put up the money for her own restaurant if she brought the talent and the name. Christine came to me, excited, talking a mile a minute. But there was a catch. She needed $50,000 of her own to put in as her share. Good faith money, she called it. Ruth had died the year before. I'd just sold the house in Englewood, the house Ruth and I had lived in for 30 years, because I couldn't stand being there without her. The sale gave me $160,000. It was everything I had in the world. My retirement, my safety net, my future. Christine asked for $50,000. I gave her $75,000. Take extra, I told her, for the things you don't see coming. She cried, hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. Daddy, I'll pay you back every penny. I promise. This is going to change everything. She was right. It changed everything, just not the way I thought. Fontaine opened and became a sensation within 6 months. The reviews were glowing. Celebrities showed up. Christine was on morning television, in newspaper features, on the cover of a food magazine. The restaurant did $2 million in revenue its first year, $3 million the second. And somewhere in those years, my daughter stopped calling. At first, it was subtle. Calls went from every day to every other day, then weekly, then monthly. She was busy, I told myself. She was building something. But the distance grew. She moved to a penthouse in the Gold Coast. New friends, new circles, people who wore watches that cost more than my annual salary. I visited the restaurant once, about a year after it opened. Showed up unannounced, wearing my good jacket, the one Ruth always said made me look handsome. I walked in and told the hostess I was Christine's father. She looked me up and down, went to the back, came out 5 minutes later. Miss Price is unavailable. She suggests you make a reservation. My own daughter told me to make a reservation. I never went back. Until today. Dorothy listened to all of this without interrupting. We'd been standing on the sidewalk half a block from Fontaine for 5 minutes. She set her grocery bags down on a bench. And the money? She asked quietly. The $75,000? She paid back $20,000 the first year. Then nothing. That was 4 years ago. When I brought it up, she said I was being ungrateful, that her success should be payment enough, that I should be proud, instead of asking for handouts. Handouts, Dorothy repeated. Her voice was flat. She said I was embarrassing her, that her investors don't need to know her father was a janitor, maintenance worker at a school. She calls it janitor. In front of her friends, I stared at the wooden box. Last month, I called her to ask if we could have Thanksgiving together. She said she was hosting a private dinner for investors and food critics. No room at the table. No room at the table, Dorothy said. For her own father. For her own father. We stood there, 2 strangers on a cold sidewalk, and somehow she understood my whole life. Mr. Price, Dorothy said, let's go inside together. Oh, I don't know if that's a good idea. She doesn't like me showing up without. I insist. She picked up her grocery bags. An old woman shouldn't carry these alone, should she? I couldn't argue with that. We walked through the front door of Fontaine at 11:45. The lunch service was just starting. The interior was stunning. Dark wood, brass fixtures, white tablecloths, soft jazz playing from hidden speakers. The kind of place that whispers money from every corner. A young man at the host stand looked up. Tailored vest, perfect hair. His name tag read Marcus. "Good morning. Do you have a reservation?" "No," I said. "I'm here to see Christine Price. I'm her father." Marcus's smile didn't waver, but his eyes changed. He looked at my coat, my shoes, the wooden box, then at Dorothy, her plain brown coat, her grocery bags. "I see. Let me check if Miss Price is available." He disappeared through a door to the kitchen. I could hear voices, the clatter of pans, the organized chaos of a professional kitchen. A moment later, a man came out instead. Tall, early 40s, expensive suit. James Whitfield, Christine's business partner and general manager. He approached with the kind of smile that's designed to move you toward the exit. "Mr. Price, Christine wasn't expecting you." "I know. I wanted to surprise her. Her birthday is Thursday." He glanced at the box. "That's thoughtful, but she's extremely busy with lunch prep. Perhaps you could come back another." "He's her father," Dorothy said calmly from beside me. "She can spare 5 minutes." James looked at Dorothy the way people look at something they can't quite categorize. She didn't match the restaurant. Neither did I. "And you are?" "A friend," Dorothy said. "That's all." James hesitated, then went back through the kitchen door. We waited. Marcus pretended to arrange menus. A couple at a nearby table glanced at us and whispered. The kitchen door swung open. Christine walked out. My daughter, 37 years old. Chef's coat, spotless white, her name embroidered in gold thread, hair pulled back. Beautiful. She looked so much like Ruth that my chest ached every single time. But the expression on her face was not Ruth's. It was cold, impatient, annoyed. "Dad." She didn't hug me, didn't smile. "What are you doing here?" "I told you, if you want to come, make a reservation like everyone else. I brought you something. For your birthday." I held out the wooden box. "These were your mother's recipe cards. All of them. Her fried chicken, her sweet potato pie, her biscuits, everything. I thought you might want—" "Dad." She lowered her voice, but not enough. "I'm a trained chef. I studied at Le Cordon Bleu. I don't need home recipes." The words hit me in the stomach. "Your mother spent years writing these down." "I know, and I appreciate the sentiment. But this is a professional kitchen. We don't use index cards from someone's kitchen drawer." "From someone's kitchen drawer?" I whispered. "That someone was your mother." Christine crossed her arms. "Why are you really here?" "I wanted to see you. Have lunch, maybe? Talk." "I don't have time for lunch. I'm running a restaurant." "Then 5 minutes." "Just 5 minutes, Christine." She looked past me at the dining room. A few more customers had come in. She saw them watching. Her jaw tightened. "Dad, you can't keep showing up like this. My investors eat here. Food critics eat here. And you walk in dressed like—" She gestured at my coat. "Dressed like what?" "Like you don't belong here." Silence. "I helped build this place," I said quietly. $75,000. 3 years of no sleep to pay for your school. Your mother sewing until her hands bled. Here we go again. She pressed her fingers to her temples. "I paid you 20,000 back. You owe me 55. But that's not why I'm here." "Then what do you want?" "I want my daughter back." For 1 second, something flickered in her eyes. Something soft, something that remembered. But it vanished. "I'm right here, Dad. I'm just busy." "You're not busy, Christine. You're ashamed of me." Her face hardened. "Keep your voice down. You told your staff to turn me away last time. You skipped Thanksgiving with your own father. You won't return my calls. Because every call is about money or guilt. I've never asked for the money. Not once. You offered to pay it back. And I will. When the time is right." "When is that, Christine? When I'm dead?" She grabbed my arm, pulled me toward the entrance. "We're not doing this here, Miss Price." Dorothy's voice cut through the tension like a bell. Christine spun around. She'd barely noticed Dorothy standing there with her grocery bags. "Who are you?" "Nobody important. Just an old woman your father helped on the sidewalk 10 minutes ago. She set her bags down. He picked up my groceries when they fell. Nobody else stopped. Not one person. That's very nice. This is a private matter. It stopped being private when you started humiliating him in front of your staff and customers. Christine's eyes went wide. Excuse me? James stepped forward. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to. Let her speak, I said. Christine's face was turning red. Dad, you brought a random woman off the street into my restaurant to defend you? This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is why I can't. The front door opened. A gust of cold air blew in, and with it came two women and a man in expensive coats. They stopped when they saw the scene. One of the women, tall, auburn hair, impeccably dressed, looked directly at Dorothy. Her face went sheet white. Oh my God. She grabbed the arm of the man next to her. Richard. Richard, that's Dorothy Langston. Richard looked. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. James Whitfield, who had been about to escort Dorothy out, froze like someone had poured concrete into his shoes. Dorothy Langston? He whispered. Christine looked at James, then at the newcomers, then back at Dorothy. Who? The woman with auburn hair walked forward quickly, hand extended. Miss Langston, I'm Catherine Morris. I'm the food editor at the Chicago Tribune. We've been trying to get an interview with you for 2 years. Dorothy shook her hand warmly. Hello, Catherine. Marcus, the host, nearly dropped his stack of menus. He pulled out his phone, typed something, looked at the screen, looked at Dorothy, and went pale. James Whitfield grabbed Christine's arm and pulled her close. I could hear him because the lobby had gone dead silent. Christine, that woman is Dorothy Langston. She's the owner of the Langston Hospitality Group. 12 Michelin-starred restaurants across the country. She's worth $400 million. She just endowed the new wing at Le Cordon Bleu, the school you graduated from. And she's on the board of the National Restaurant Association. She decides who gets the James Beard Award. Christine's hands started shaking. A glass of water she'd been holding slipped from her fingers and shattered on the hardwood floor. The crash echoed through the silent restaurant. Dorothy Langston stood perfectly calm among the broken glass. She looked at Christine the way a teacher looks at a student who just failed the most important test of their life. $400 million, Dorothy said, and I still carry my own groceries. I still ride the bus sometimes. I still wear my late husband's favorite coat because it reminds me of who I am. Nobody moved. I came to this neighborhood today because I'd heard about Fontaine. I was thinking about adding it to my group. An acquisition. Your name came up in every conversation. Everyone said Christine Price is the next great American chef. Christine's lips were trembling. Miss Langston, I had no idea. I know you didn't. That's the point. Dorothy turned to me. Mr. Price, may I see those recipe cards? I handed her the wooden box with shaking hands. She opened it, flipped through the cards slowly. Read a few. Closed her eyes and smiled. Sweet potato pie with brown butter and vanilla bean, she read. Buttermilk biscuits, lard crust, hand-folded. She looked up. This is the real thing. This is soul. This is what 90% of restaurants in this country are missing. She turned back to Christine. Your mother wrote these? Christine nodded, barely. And you told your father you don't need home recipes from someone's kitchen drawer? The silence was unbearable. I heard everything, Miss Price. From the moment you walked out of that kitchen, the way you spoke to your father, the way you dismissed your mother's legacy, the way you treated the man who sacrificed everything so you could stand in this restaurant wearing that coat with your name in gold. Christine's eyes filled with tears. Your father gave you $75,000, his entire life savings after losing his wife. He worked 2 jobs for 3 years to pay for your education. He slept 4 hours a night. His hands are crippled with arthritis from loading trucks so you could learn to cook. Dorothy set the recipe box down on the host stand. And when he came here today, on your birthday week, carrying your dead mother's recipes as a gift, you told him he doesn't belong. A tear rolled down Christine's cheek. Then another. Miss Langston, please. I'm so sorry. If you had known who I was, you would have treated him differently. That's the problem, not the solution. Dorothy reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a business card. Set it on the host, stand next to the recipe box. I was going to offer you a partnership today. Bring Fontaine into the Langston Group. National expansion. Your name in every major city. Christine stared at the card. That offer is off the table. Christine's knees buckled. James caught her arm. I don't do business with people who don't have integrity, Dorothy said. I don't care how good the food is. If the soul of the chef is rotten, the restaurant is rotten. She turned to me. Mr. Price, I'd like to talk to you. Do you have time for coffee? Ah, yes, ma'am. I do. Good. I know a place around the corner. She picked up her grocery bags. I reached for them automatically. Let me carry those. She smiled. See, that's character. It doesn't turn on and off depending on who's watching. We walked toward the door. Behind us, Christine's voice cracked. Dad, Daddy, please wait. I stopped, turned around. My daughter stood in the middle of her beautiful restaurant, surrounded by her expensive everything, tears streaming down her face, looking exactly like the 12-year-old girl who used to cry when she burned the biscuits. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I looked at her for a long time, felt every year of sacrifice, every night in that warehouse, every unanswered phone call, every Thanksgiving alone. I love you, Christine. I always will. But I need you to hear me. I don't want your money. I never did. I want my daughter. The one who used to stand on a step stool and fold biscuit dough with her mama. The one who cried happy tears when she graduated. The one who hugged me and said she'd never forget what we did for her. My voice broke. I don't know where that girl went. But until she comes back, I need some time. I turned and walked out with Dorothy. The cold air hit us, but I barely felt it. Behind me, I heard Christine sobbing, James trying to comfort her, Marcus standing frozen, Catherine Morris from the Tribune quietly putting her notebook away, because some stories aren't meant to be printed. Dorothy and I walked 2 blocks to a small diner called Rosie's. Faded booths, coffee that tasted like it had been on the burner since morning, and a waitress named Pearl who called everyone honey. We sat across from each other. Dorothy set her grocery bags in the booth beside her and ordered 2 coffees and 2 slices of pecan pie. Mr. Price, she said, I want to tell you something. Please, call me Walter. Walter. I grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment on the west side. My mother cleaned office buildings at night. My father drove a city bus for 31 years. A bus driver. He died when I was 22. Heart attack on the route. They found him slumped over the wheel at the Pulaski stop. I'm sorry. He never saw any of this. She gestured vaguely at the world beyond the diner windows. The restaurants, the money, the awards. He just saw a girl who loved to cook, and he made sure she had a chance. Sounds like a good man? The best man I ever knew. She sipped her coffee, which is why what I saw today made me so angry. Your daughter has forgotten the most basic truth. Talent means nothing without gratitude. Success is empty without love. She wasn't always like this. I know. The world gets hold of people. Money, status, the wrong circle of friends. They start believing the lie that where they came from is something to be ashamed of. She paused. I've seen it 100 times. I've fired people for it. You think she'll change? Dorothy looked at me. That depends on whether losing this deal wakes her up. Sometimes people need to lose something big before they remember what matters. We ate pie and talked for 2 hours. About Ruth, about cooking, about kids who grow up and forget. Dorothy told me about her own son, who managed one of her restaurants in New York. About her grandchildren who she FaceTimed every Sunday. When we left, she handed me her personal phone number. Not a business card. Her actual number, written on a napkin in pen. Walter, I'd like to have dinner with you next week. I know a place that serves excellent meatloaf. I laughed for the first time in months. I'd like that. 3 weeks later, a lot had changed. Dorothy Langston did not acquire Fontaine. The news traveled through the Chicago restaurant world like wildfire. Everyone wanted to know why. Dorothy never said publicly. She didn't have to. The story told itself. Christine called me 3 days after the incident. The first call lasted 40 minutes. She cried the entire time. Not because she lost the deal, because she finally heard herself. The things she'd said, the way she'd treated me. And she couldn't believe the person she'd become. Daddy, I've been so lost, she said. After Mama died, I threw myself into work. And the more successful I got, the more I felt like I had to be someone else. Like the girl from Englewood wasn't good enough for this world. That girl from Englewood is the best person I know. I forgot that. I forgot everything. She sent me a check for $55,000 the following week. I sent it back. She sent it again. I called her and said, "Christine, keep the money. Invest it in the restaurant. The only payment I want is Sunday dinner at my apartment. Just us." She showed up that Sunday with grocery bags full of ingredients. She stood in my tiny kitchen, put on one of Ruth's old aprons, took out the recipe box, and made her mother's fried chicken from the handwritten card. We ate together at my little table. She told me about the pressure, the investors who looked down on her background, the business partner who once told her to stop mentioning the South Side because it's not on brand. She told me how she slowly learned to hide me, hide Ruth, hide everything real about herself to fit into a world that demanded perfection. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," she said. "Not yet. I haven't earned it." "You're earning it right now," I said. "One biscuit at a time." She laughed. Then she cried. Then she laughed again. That's how healing works, I think. Messy and beautiful and slow. Dorothy and I have dinner every Thursday now. Sometimes at that little diner, Rosie's. Sometimes at my place. I made her Ruth's sweet potato pie last week, and she closed her eyes after the first bite and said, "Walter, your wife was a genius." "I know," I said. I told her every day. Last Thursday, Dorothy told me she was starting a scholarship fund at Le Cordon Bleu for kids from neighborhoods like ours. Kids whose parents work 2 jobs and sleep 4 hours a night. She asked me to help her name it. "The Ruth Price Culinary Scholarship," I said without hesitation. Dorothy smiled. "Perfect. My wife's name on a scholarship at the school she helped pay for with her own raw fingers." Ruth would have laughed and said, "Walter, stop making a fuss." But she would have been proud. I know she would have. Christine is different now. Not perfect. We're still rebuilding. There are awkward silences sometimes, things we haven't said yet. But she comes to Sunday dinner every week. She answers my calls. Last week, she put her mother's fried chicken on the Fontaine menu as a special, called it Ruth's recipe, sold out in an hour. She didn't do it for the reviews. She did it because she remembered. I want to tell you something before I go. I learned 3 lessons from all of this, and I think they might matter to you too. First, never be ashamed of where you come from. Your roots aren't your weakness. They're your foundation. I mopped floors and loaded trucks so my daughter could chase her dream. There's no shame in that. The shame is in forgetting. Second, kindness is never wasted. I picked up oranges for a stranger on a cold sidewalk. I didn't know she was Dorothy Langston. Didn't care. I did it because my wife taught me that helping someone is never the wrong choice. And that one small act changed my life. Third, your children are not your retirement plan. Love them with everything you have, but never lose yourself in the giving. Keep something for yourself. Your dignity, your self-respect, your voice. Because the day you go silent is the day they stop hearing you. If you have a Dorothy in your life, someone who sees you when the world looks right through you, hold on to them. If you have a Christine in your life, someone who forgot where they came from, don't give up on them, but don't lose yourself waiting either. And if you're the Christine in someone else's story, hear me now. It's not too late. Pick up the phone, show up at the door, make the recipe, say the words. God put Dorothy on that sidewalk for a reason. He put those oranges on the ground for a reason. And he's putting this story in front of you right now for a reason. If you believe that kindness comes back, write amen in the comments. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to hear more stories like this one from bt-sweetrevenge. The sacrifices your parents made. The meals they cooked. The sleep they lost. None of it was wasted. None of it was forgotten. God keeps the receipts. I'll see you in the next story. God bless.